Welcome to Connect, the monthly series to connect you with your community. In each episode, we speak with experts, innovators, and community members, and together explore themes of loneliness, social connection, and healthy aging across Massachusetts. I'm your host, Sandra Harris, the state president for AARP Massachusetts and co-chair of the Taskforce to End Loneliness and Build Community. In this episode, we will explore the hidden gems in your community, the resources that you may not realize can help you stay connected, to meet others, to volunteers, and find purpose locally. In particular, we're going to explore local libraries and the fine work they are doing. Massachusetts has 1,600 libraries across the state, each offering a wide array of opportunities. With me today is Charlotte Wood, the Assistant Library Director at the Wilmington Memorial Library. Welcome, Charlotte, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Sandra. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good. Charlotte, tell us a little bit about your community and your library.
Right, so the Wilmington Memorial Library is located in Wilmington, Massachusetts. Wilmington is a town of about 22,000 people. It's located in the northwest corner, right where 93 and 95 intersect. So you have Wilmington on one side, Reading on the other side of the highway, Woburn down below, Stoneham is kitty corner, so it kind of gives people an idea of where it's located. And about 10, 12 miles north of Boston. And I do have to say that I think Wilmington is better known than it used to be. And when I applied for a job there just about 20 years ago, and I didn't live that many towns away, I actually had to look up and see where it was. So it's it was a little bit sleepy, but not anymore.
Wonderful.
So the other thing about Wilmington, it was incorporated in 1730. So it's it used to be part of Woburn and Reading, and it was an agricultural community for a number of years until 93 was put in, and then that intersected Wilmington. And so that's what really brought people and industry to the community, and the population doubled over a couple of decades. And that really changed the makeup of the community more than anything else. Yeah.
Wow, how interesting.
Yeah.
What is your role at the library?
I'm the assistant library director, and like I said, I applied to the library about 20 years ago, and I became the assistant director 14 years ago. And so during that time, the assistant director role has also changed as the library has changed. So I'm very involved in adult programming. It probably takes up half the amount of time, my time, along with the adult services librarian. The two of us handle the programming for the library, in addition to scheduling and personnel and issues and helping decide which direction the library is going to go in the future. So my job duties have expanded over the years, but I would say the programming portion of it has been the biggest growth. And the one other thing I'd like to say about the community and the library is the library was incorporated, not incorporated, but the library was established in 1871. So last July 1st in 2021, the library celebrated 150th year. It's 150th year in Wilmington. So, yeah.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah.
As I think about my own library as I grew up as a child, and I begin to look at all of the wonderful things that are happening at libraries like yours, libraries have really changed over the last decades. Would you like to share in ways that in which libraries have changed?
Right, it's changed a lot. I would say in the last 20 years, it began slowly and then really began to pick up steam, I would say, probably a dozen years ago or so. But libraries, the traditional library was a library full of things, mainly books. And people would come in and they would check out their books and they would leave. That the children's area was always a little bit different because they had children's story times. That's always been part of library services. But for adults, it was mainly coming in, getting the things you need and leaving, or maybe staying and using the reference books and doing some research. But over the last 20 years, and especially over the last decade or so, there has been a shift from libraries of being a place for things to being a place for things to do. And I just think that sums it up really well. So the shift in our library and the shift in many libraries around us is this increase in adult, we call it adult programming. But it can be, lectures, concerts, craft programs, book groups, just a number of things that are being offered throughout the month for adults to come in and experience and participate in.
Are there any special programs that you offer to help people connect to the community,
Yes.
especially older adults?
Yes, right. So when we began programming, most of our programming was in the evening. And I would say it was mainly, more of a lecture format. And so the shift has been starting about 7, 8 years ago, we began offering daytime programs. Our library has always been a big proponent of sending staff to conferences, local and national. And I came back from a national conference and I had gone to a talk about the need for good adult programming during the daytime because there's very active older adults looking for things to do. So we started offering an afternoon lecture on the first Monday of the month. We offer third Thursday concerts. These are at 2:30. The lecture and the concerts are at 2:30 in the afternoon. We started a needleworking group that meets every Friday. It's drop-in at the library, and the women that began coming to that have bonded and it's very social. We have a daytime book group. We offer tech help during the day. I think this is very important for seniors to know that if they're having difficulty with devices or just don't understand something, many libraries will offer tech help. They should call or go to the website or call the library and find out if it's offered and when. So that's during the day, we offer that. And in addition, we offer some evening things where people can also connect. We offer a craft and chat on the second Wednesday of the month. That's always full. And the other thing I didn't mention during the daytime, in April and May, we started a walking group at the library on Wednesday mornings. It just happened this morning. Group forms at the library and they go, we're fortunate that we live across from a beautiful cemetery that's quiet, has nice walking roads. People walk and talk for an hour and come back. So there are ways, if you're feeling at home, that sometimes when you do retire, you're thinking, what do I do next and how do I become involved? The library is an excellent starting point for people. I moved a lot when I was married with young children, and the first place I always went because I knew I would be welcome. It didn't matter. I didn't have to belong to a church. I didn't have to be working, but I knew I could go to the public library, sign my children up for programs, and become involved myself. The same now is true for adults. If you're finding yourself a little bit at loose ends, recently retired or in different circumstances or have recently moved to the area, check out your local library.
Okay.
Because there are...
As a recovering designer, Charlotte, when you talk about craft and chat, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes, so, right, so we started this actually last September, kind of when COVID was still sort of rearing its ugly head. Not that it's gone away, but, we did not have restrictions. We were still wearing masks at the time, but we didn't have restrictions about gathering. And we limited it to 20 people in the evening. We had more than 20 people sign up. I think people were eager to come out and do something together. So it was led by one of our library associates who did a lot of crafts. And the crafts are the type that you can do within an hour to an hour and a half, and they vary from coasters to painting, etching on glass, to felt succulents, to, things that you can take home. We provide the supplies. And then that associate left and we hired someone locally in the community who actually was doing a local cable program on crafting in Wilmington. So we hired her, and so she does it once a month and just loves it. And again, we usually have a wait list for that. So there are a lot of our offerings now that we've turned a little bit during COVID. For our in-person programs, we're trying to do things where people are involved, not just sitting and listening to a lecture, but are more involved. We held a legacy letter program during the daytime this past Monday, and people actually wrote, so there was more involvement rather than just sitting and listening. And you could talk to your neighbors as well. So there is can be a social aspect to these programs.
Okay. You did address COVID. How did it really impact the community? Did you have to close down? Did you have to close the library and just not have programs? And what are you beginning to do as we go between, our new normal and how we understood things to be before that?
Like every other place, March of 2020, we got the marching orders to go home. All staff were sent home. I think it was the third week of March. And we had to regroup. We had to cancel. First of all, we canceled our programs just 2 weeks out, figuring it would last only a couple of weeks, right? And then we canceled them for a month, and then the writing was on the wall that we just had to cancel programs and regroup. So we started offering programs via Zoom in June of 2020. Many libraries pivoted. It took a little while for the staff and for the public to catch on to Zoom, but now it's been almost 2 years, and now the public's very used to Zoom. We're very used to Zoom. And there's the positive side of that is we can get speakers from anywhere in the country, and people anywhere in the country can tune in to our program. And you can do it from the comfort of your home if the weather's lousy. And especially if people do not want to drive at night, there's advantages to that. The disadvantage, of course, is you do lose that little bit of that social connection that comes from gathering with others. So now that we've been able to have in-house programs, we've taken steps now to begin some in-person programming at the library. The legacy letter that I just mentioned was in person. We're having a concert tomorrow at 2:30 that is in person. So we're beginning to have a mix of things. We're also, during the good weather, during the spring and summer months and early fall, we have a lot of outdoor programming. So this past Saturday, for instance, we had a container gardening workshop where people put together a container. Well, it was a beautiful container of flowers that they could take home. Yeah. We also had restorative yoga last Saturday, but that was in our conference room, but it was in person. So but we're having people come out. We're still doing Zoom lectures as well. The other thing I'd like to mention is the fall of 2019, we had received a grant that year for healthy aging, and we worked with our senior center to develop a whole slate of programs geared towards seniors. So it was called our Healthy Aging, and we had just a number of wonderful programs and great turnout at the library in November of 2019, the winter of 2019-20, and starting in the spring we were having wonderful turnout, but March it all had to be stopped. So we kind of lost the senior population for a while that we were building up at the library through these programs, and just beginning to see some people returning. And again, some people are still reluctant to gather even with a mask. We see that. So I think it's going to take another year to really see how people come back to the library, how they come back. But Zoom will remain because there are some programs that are just better suited to that. But we will also continue to have in-person programs and some socialization.
Okay. Have you found in the work that you're doing, especially during COVID, that people, and a lot of people we know are reluctant to kind of really come out and socialize, but are also reluctant to embrace the digital divide, the digital literacy programs.
Yes.
Is there anything that you're doing to address those people who really have not made the connection to Zoom and virtual platforms and provided ways in which they can stay connected?
Yes. So what we did see during the last 2 years of COVID is a lot of people were just sort of, I'll call it forced. The people that didn't want to embrace it were sort of forced to. So we saw an increase in usage of our digital offerings, ebooks, audiobooks, downloadable music, the Zoom programming, all of that. So I think a lot of people learned it despite maybe not wanting to or being afraid of it. For those that are still at home and haven't embraced it, like I said, we do offer tech help, one-on-one tech help sessions. Now, if you are reluctant to come to the library, I'm sure we could, our library, I'm sure we could arrange to have, and if you don't do Zoom, we could have a telephone call with you to try to help you get up and running. If people are comfortable coming in and wearing a mask at the Wilmington Library, you could set up a one-on-one tech help where you're just with one other person. Or if you can use Zoom or have somebody set you up with Zoom, we could set up a Zoom tech help session for you to get you going. So I think most libraries would be very willing and would want to help anyone who would like to use our digital services learn how to do it, and would probably offer it in many formats.
Okay. So do you also offer hotspots for people who do not have
Yes.
broadband,
Yes.
Wi-Fi?
You can check out a hotspot is a device that you can take home, and you will have an internet connection through that hotspot. For anyone that's not familiar with them, it's a portable internet connection. And the other thing that our library does, and many libraries do, you can check out a Chromebook, which is a laptop. If you don't have a device at home, you can check that out. We also circulate like an Amazon, the Kindle Fire, which is another small device that you could take home if you wanted to try that as well. So yes, we have the devices and we have the internet connection for anyone that doesn't have
Wonderful,
them.
wonderful. You know, as I took a deeper dive into the Wilmington Memorial Library and all the work that you're doing, it is truly impressive. You're offering so many different kinds of programs and opportunities for people to come in, participate in a program, to socialize, and just connect to the community as a volunteer or just as a regular member. Is this typical of most libraries in Massachusetts? And for those libraries that have not embraced programming as much as you have, what advice would you like to give our audience on how to reach out to their libraries and suggest more programming?
Well, to answer your question, I would say that the libraries near us that I know of, Tewksbury, Andover, Reading, Woburn, all of them are doing adult programming. In different degrees, but I would say that the majority of libraries probably in the state have added adult programming to some extent. I can't speak for all of them, but I would say that most communities you will find some adult programming. Some I'll call the stumbling blocks to offering it would be funding. The funding is not. It's not mandated. Try to make this real simple. It's not mandated by the state. Libraries have to spend so much of the money that they have on materials, but there's no mandate for programs, and there's no funding for that. So libraries rely a lot on their friends groups to raise money. Libraries have now turned to towns, as we have, to begin to give the libraries some funding every year towards programming. So funding could be one obstacle. The second obstacle could be staffing. We're pretty well staffed, and we have our adult services librarian, who used to be on the reference desk a lot. Her time has been freed up so she can do programming. So we've pivoted that position. Some libraries may not have, or may just not have enough staff to offer as much programming as we do. And the third stumbling block could be the facility. We have a large meeting room. We have a smaller meeting room. We also will use the first floor of our library for after-hours programs, which it's kind of like using the library as a venue. It's really kind of fun to do that on Friday nights as occasion. But there are some libraries with very old buildings that don't have meeting space, and so they have to sort of cobble together something if they're going to have a program. Every library is going to be a little different, but if somebody doesn't see a lot of programming, they certainly can ask a staff member as to maybe why. They could certainly send an email to the director, stating that they would desire programming, and find out what the response is. So, but I would say most libraries have turned in the direction of adding a lot of programming.
And I would also imagine that that's a wonderful opportunity to become a volunteer and to mobilize your community and raise money to kind of help provide those programs, or even just additional spaces, right?
Join a friends group, right. And the other thing I didn't mention when we were talking about programming is our library every so often will pull up what we call a Skillshare application, and ask people in the community to, if they would like to, put down what their skills are, and that they would be willing to offer a program, and then we would reach out to them and schedule a program so that the person in the community can share their skills and expertise with the community. In fact, the container gardening program that I mentioned that we had last Saturday was a Skillshare. We have a woman in town who approached us. She filled out a Skillshare sheet, try saying that, but she's like a flower judge. She has a lot of expertise at gardening and flowers, and she chose the flowers, got everything together, instructed the group about putting together the container gardening. So that was all within the community.
Sure.
We did not go outside and find someone and hire them. That was somebody within the community. And so that's also a win for the library, the community.
And what a wonderful way to maintain meaning and purpose in life, right? To have a reason to get up in the morning and to go to the library and lead these kinds of groups.
Yes.
So all of this is so wonderful.
Yes.
Now let's hear from a community member who spoke with our field reporter, Kasley Killian. Kasley, whom you have with you today?
Thank you, Sandra. So today we are joined by Nancy Kirwin, who is active in some of the programs that Charlotte just shared. So Nancy, welcome. Thank you for joining today.
And thank you for having me.
So tell us about your involvement at the library, in particular with the Needleworking Group and with the Strategic Planning Committee.
I have had the privilege of meeting some of the nicest people here in Wilmington. We've lived here about 20 years, and the library really works hard to provide awesome programming and workshops. I've been very involved with the Needleworkers. We meet on a Friday morning, and we have been brought together by a single thread. And we include knitting, crocheting. I do needlepoint in particular, just cross-stitch, counted thread, quilting. It's a wonderful group of ladies, really in all ages and with diverse backgrounds. And we all sit there and chat and talk about what we do. And it's wonderful. I've learned, I'm not a knitter, but I have learned about knitting, and it's just another factor to broaden your knowledge about things you might not be involved with. The Strategic Planning Committee was wonderfully eye-opening, because as a senior, I got to sit with people in all areas of the town at all ages and get to know what the town is thinking about and what is considering, and how that the library wanted to become a center for the community and involved. And I was able to relate aspects of senior living to those people as well. It was a very interesting opportunity for me.
Fantastic. That sounds really great. So this TV series and also just the work of the Taskforce to End Loneliness and Build Community more broadly is really all about the fact that many residents in Massachusetts feel really isolated. Many people do, and are really craving a deeper sense of meaningful connection. So I'm curious, you're alluding to this, but really, how has the library been a source of helping you to deepen your sense of community locally?
The library is very welcoming when you come into the library, and they will chat with you. And if they find that you're interested in something particular, especially as a senior, and if you're willing to come in and chat with them, they will tell you about the various groups that the library has. And not to be afraid, but to join in. And they will reach out to you as a senior. If you are at home, they will find a way to have you become involved, and in borrowing books or whatever way you can help them. They would appreciate that.
That's wonderful. And what inspired you to get involved with these different groups in the first place? How did that all come about?
As a needleworker, I've been stitching since the late 70s, so that was easy for me. And I think needleworkers, stitchers, knitters, crocheters, whatever we do, it's a wonderful group of people. And I'm trying to think of other things that are involved. I love working with children. I've helped out with the teen department. And when you work with the children, you get to meet their parents. So it was very much a people outreach for me. I do enjoy it.
Wonderful. And it sounds like many of these programs are actually intergenerational in nature. Yes. So it's not just older adults, it's people of all ages connecting.
People of all ages, and their programs are that way as well. They offer programs for seniors, they offer programs for children, workshops. It gives you an opportunity to meet other people in the community and to try something to see if you like it or don't like it, whatever you feel is best. Something like the town-wide yard sale gives you an opportunity, even if you're not having the yard sale, but to go out there and meet your neighbors. Grab a friend or two and go out there and see and just chat. You don't have to buy something unless you really see a super bargain, but go out there and chat. The book groups are awesome. I joined one of the couple of the book groups because I wanted to broaden my interests. And again, people of all ages come into this, and it was wonderful. And I get the perspective of someone else's reading the same book. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And one other thing that the library offers is our bread, our technical assistance. For those of us with not an available grandchild or a 10-year-old neighbor next door, technical assistance is awesome. Cooking, we do cooking. It's great. It's an opportunity to meet other people, and you can do one thing or you can do many things. And you can step into it and do it gradually, however you feel comfortable. That's the most important part. And the people in the library make you feel very comfortable and very welcome.
Absolutely. I actually just moved myself and recently joined the local library, and they were so welcoming. But you've definitely inspired me to get involved with some more of the groups there as well.
And learn a little needlework, strategic planning for your library and what you'd like to see the library, come to in the future.
Absolutely. So one final question, Nancy. This episode today the theme is really around hidden gems that people can find in their local communities. So I'm curious, are there any other hidden gems you found locally that others might enjoy if they're able to find them in their neighborhoods?
I'm trying to think about a hidden gem. I just think that someone who hasn't really gone into a library or into the Wilmington Library, any library, it's a hidden gem if you haven't done it before. Mm-hmm. And it's something I think you should, do. I'm sorry, I can't think of, I think I've probably unhidden a few things. I'm sure that Charlotte is saying, Nancy, but I think that it's just going there and being involved and introducing yourself. Mm-hmm. I think that's you could be the hidden gem for that librry.
I like that. That's a really beautiful idea. Yeah, good. Wonderful. Well, what a great way to close this. Thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing your experience.
And with a beautiful day.
You too. And with that, Sandra, back to you.
Thank you, Kasley. Charlotte, before leaving, What is the one thing you'd like our audience to know about libraries in the Commonwealth?
That they're alive and well. And if you haven't visited a library in a while, and we'll have people come and say, boy, they'll look around and say, I haven't been to the library in 20 years, because there are periods of time when people do visit the library. They might visit when their children are young. Then they might be working and really busy, and then you retire and maybe you haven't been to the library in a while. I would say, check out the website. Visit if you haven't been in. Libraries have changed, and you might be pleasantly surprised.
Oh, wow, thank you. Mm-hmm. As the saying goes, it's not your grandma's library, right?
No, not anymore, not anymore. Right.
Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you to all of our viewers who are tuned in. We hope you'll join us again next month for another episode of Connect. Until then, please visit us at our website, inlonelinessma.com, to watch past episodes and to learn more about the task force and ways you can get involved.